Breaking news just today. Pam Bondi was grilled and caught in 4K, more or less admitting openly to the fact that not only does she have access to the Epstein Files, but that her and the White House have been actively withholding them from the American people. It doesn't get any more cut and dry than this. She is getting grilled. The American people and even some Republicans in office want these Epstein Files out. Their voters want the Epstein Files out. And it is entirely the Trump loyalists who are fighting to keep them covered up, to keep them away from the American people. And so here we have this, like, literally just came out, live stream from Forbes. Breaking news, sparks fly as Durbin grills Pam Bondi over Epstein logs, then Blackburn calls him out. Very, very interesting. Everyone on Twitter has been talking about this all day. This is really going to be my first dive into this video, but everyone's been posting clips of it and talking about it, so I think it's time for us to dive right in without much further ado. But don't forget to leave a like and a comment on this video if you enjoy and want to support the channel. It really helps a lot, especially with all the Trump White House censorship of the left that's been happening with the help of big tech lately. It really does mean a lot, so thank you to everyone who supports this video and the stream. But let's hop into it.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Madam Attorney General, let me ask you this question. Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House
They touch on a lot here.
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member.
I noticed that. What's the secret? Why do you...
Right off the bat, we're getting real hostile. Okay. Clearly she's carrying herself like she knows there's no consequences for her hostility.
want to keep this secret? The American people don't know the rationale behind the deployment of National Guard troops in my state. The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
Been on this committee for more than...
Sticking the National Guard of a red state on a blue state is blatant act of, like, that's a blatant act of civil war. Let's call it what it is. That is a blatant act of civil war. And at some point, it's feeling like states are going to have to respond. As crazy as it is, this is how a modern American civil war happens.
20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack. I think it's a legitimate question. It's my responsibility. She refuses to answer as to whether she had any conversation with the White House about deploying national troops to my state. That's an indication, I'm afraid, where we are politically in this place. Let me ask you another question. I want to, if you will, hold on a second. Make sure I got the right page of facts here. You testified under oath when you last before this committee that before your appointment to Attorney General, you had served as a representative of some sort for the royal family of Qatar. There was an issue that came before you in May when President Trump accepted a $400 million luxury jet from the royal family of Qatar for temporary use as Air Force One before its permanent.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be feeling that way right now, Natalie's Cyber Tips, which, by the way, thank you for the big old $10 super chat. Very generous and kind of you, and much appreciated. Yeah, it feels like the Civil War, if there's gonna be one, is starting to heat up. Like, what else can you call it when the president orders a state with political affiliation A to send its National Guard to patrol the streets and enforce the president's law, as he calls it, in a state with politics B, or political affiliation B? And that is a very clear act of politically partisan-driven civil war. You're pitting state A against state B. It doesn't get more civil war than that.
Permanently gifted to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation. The Constitution.
Why is he pronouncing Qatar so weird? Qatar and Qatar are both apparently valid, like, terminology. There's not really like an official PC pronunciation of Qatar as far as I'm aware. So there's a lot of things like that where you'll hear two different versions, and it's not because either side is wrong. It's just that, like, both pronunciations or both phrases are considered just as valid.
The Constitution unequivocally bestows on Congress the power to control whether any officer of the United States, including the President, may accept a gift, quote, from any king, prince, or foreign state, end of quote. And this gift clearly violates the statutory regime enacted by Congress. You've refused to answer a letter I sent to you 5 months ago, asking the legal rationale you relied on to advise President Trump to accept this unprecedented gift from your former legal client. Can you make a promise today that you will disclose that?
Disclose what, Ranking Member?
I assume there was a letter or some sort of statement from your office to the White House to advise them that you felt it was permissible?
First, to address my role with Qatar, as I addressed with you during my confirmation hearing, I disclosed it in my SJQ. In private practice, I worked for Qatar for anti-human trafficking for the World Cup. That was my only involvement, and I made that very clear.
Anti-human trafficking for the World Cup in association with the government of Qatar? The government that used slaves to do the World Cup? How would you be working with Qatar to prevent human trafficking when Qatar is the one doing the human trafficking and slavery? I guess, does the right deny that that's a thing? Maybe they do. I haven't heard their position on Qatar.
And I'm very proud of everything I've done with anti-human trafficking. Obviously, in preparing any advice for the president on a jet or anything else, we consult with the Office of Legal Counsel. The confidentiality applies to their input as well. And Chairman, if you would approve and vote to approve, as Chairman Grassley said, excuse me, Ranking Member, as Chairman Grassley said, my employees, we would answer your letters a lot faster, yet you're stalling them at every stop. And to go back to your previous question, your city has a murder rate 5 times higher than New York's. 571 homicides last year. If you were serious about protecting your people, you would be asking this administration for help. You're saying that...
Statistically, by the way, and Google it if you think I'm wrong, I know for a fact I'm right on this one, because when I found this out and I saw what Trump was doing, this stat stuck with me. America has been on track so far this year. Granted, some recent events, not at the fault of any of these cities' leadership, mind you, very clearly, apparently America was on track to have the lowest amount of violent crime and murders ever in its history this year. It might still be on that same track, and that might be the outcome. Has nothing to do with Trump's policy, mind you. It has been a consistent trend that was only interrupted by COVID, that America has been seeing consistently lower and lower and lower rates of violent crime. Violent crime is just, with each passing day, continuing to become a less and less real thing to be worried about. It still happens, but it's getting less common by the day.
We're coming into your state and your city. We're there to help make America safe and Illinois safe, whether or not you want to.
I believe cutting federal grant programs to law enforcement in my state and across the nation does not make us any safer, and you've done just that. You've supplanted that decision by sending in National Guard troops to California and other places. That is a situation where the governors have not asked for that help. If you truly wanted to do this on a bipartisan basis, you wouldn't defy a governor, you would work with them. I'm prepared to do that. I'm prepared to work with this administration. But cutting these grants to law enforcement does not make us any stronger as a nation or give us the tools we need to reduce crime in Chicago. Now, I'd just like to ask you, when it came to this Qatar situation, did you consult with the ethics office in the Department of Justice before making your decision on this gift for the jet?
I like that he's not letting her pivot.
Chairman, I didn't...
For those who don't know, Qatar, I believe, gave Trump a private jet, like a tens of millions or hundred millions of dollars, like ridiculously, or not hundreds of millions of dollars, but like multi-tens of millions of dollars private jet. That's so nice. I think it's like gold or something. Oh, 400 million. No, I was right. It's a $400 million golden Boeing jet that is now being made into the new Air Force One. And not only will it be Air Force One, but after Trump's presidency, he owns it. It doesn't belong to the president, it belongs to Trump. So he now just owns that $400 million golden Boeing from the Qatar government that was just a personal gift to Trump. A personal bribe, let's be clear.
Gift a jet to anyone. My Office of Legal Counsel provides confidential advice to the president, to the White House, period. And you're conflating two issues. Cutting grants. I was very clear about what grants we've cut and what grants we haven't. Only 7%. And if you have a grant in Illinois that you think that I've cut that is not that is protecting law enforcement officers or your people, you personally call me and I will work with you to turn that grant back on. I think many of the Democrats here can tell you, I have worked with them to turn grants back on. There's an appeal process. Tell me a specific grant.
Why was it ever turned off, though? The act of turning it off is the act of hostility that's at the table here.
That I have turned off in Illinois that would help law enforcement, and I will work with you. But you have not done that.
Did you take a look?
The National Guard is on the way right now as we speak. Oh, by the way, so is Director Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. You're sitting here grilling me, and they're on their way to Chicago to keep your state safe.
Madam Attorney General, it's my job to grill you. The investigation of your agency is part of my responsibility and this committee. You may not like the experience, but others have weathered the storm.
Remember, conservatives don't like doing their jobs.
Can you tell me the grants,
Yes.
ranking member, please?
Take a look at the president's budget on HIDA grants. What happens to it in his proposed budget?
I'd be glad to meet with you on the
It's
grants.
cut by 1/3 from $300 million to $196. That's one example of a grant that works, and your administration has suggested cutting it in the budget lies ahead. I want to ask you about items in a letter I sent you in July that you have not answered. In February, you made a public claim that the Epstein client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now for review, end of quote. You then produced already public information and no client list at a major media event hosted at the White House. Attorney General Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Ooh, hitting her with a real hardball question. Remember, Pam Bondi was one of the biggest ones claiming we've got the Epstein Files, we're ready to release them, it's only the Democrats holding us back, and now she is the one behind holding them back from releasing. The Epstein Files and their potential release was only ever meant to be a campaign tool. The fact that the narrative about Epstein has, like, the fact that people are even remembering Epstein's existence right now is a real big frustration for Trump, and it's obvious. We've seen how much he complains that people are still talking about him. That people are still talking about Epstein pisses him off. He thought he could that this one would just slide off like they always do. This is the one story that's actually stuck. And Trump doesn't know how to handle it, and it's frustrating him immensely.
Senator Durbin, if you listen to my entire clip on that, I said I had not reviewed it yet, that it was sitting on my desk along with the JFK files, the Martin Luther King files, and I said I had not yet reviewed it. And if you see our memo on Epstein...
She explicitly said everything is on there, the client list, everything. This is literally night and day from during the campaign, when they were like, we have everything, the Democrats won't let it be released.
You will see, excuse me, our memo on Epstein clearly points out that there was no client list, our July 6th memo. You also didn't let me respond to the HIDA question. The budget transfers
What were your claims before going into office? July 6th is after Trump took office, while everyone's been complaining about the Epstein Files not coming out. Yeah, we know you said that in July. We've been mad about it since. What about what you were saying before Trump took office? That is, before it became beneficial to bury the Epstein story.
$96 million for high-intensity drug trafficking areas to the Office of Justice
pivoting
Programs,
again. She's pivoting to a completely different topic.
OJP. The Justice Department will continue to administer those grants under OJP in 2026.
Going back to the Epstein Files, according to another whistleblower who made a protected
Good shit. Don't let her
disclosure
pivot.
to my office, you pushed the FBI to review approximately 100,000 Epstein-related records on an arbitrarily short deadline in March, and the FBI was directed to flag any documents that mentioned President Trump. Nothing came of that review until July when DOJ and FBI released an unsigned memo.
Wish the senator would just show a video of what she originally said. Yeah, let's actually see if we can find that really fast. what Trump and Pam Bondi have said about the Epstein Files this year. Before the 2024 presidential election, both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance called for the release of more files related to convicted sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein. Do we have an audio of this? Oh, no, we don't. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein. In its first months in office, the new Trump administration has promised more transparency in government, but it hasn't released any trove of Epstein files that supporters have demanded. Epstein was found dead 6 years ago. Blah, blah, blah. The names of a number of powerful figures have already appeared in documents related to Epstein's case that have been released, including President Trump and former President Bill Clinton, both of whom socialized with Epstein. But as NPR and other outlets have noted, appearing in Epstein's flight logs and other records is not an indication of wrongdoing. Many Trump supporters see the unreleased files as an unfulfilled promise. Prominent Republicans, from House Speaker Mike Johnson to former Vice President Mike Pence, former Vice President Mike Pence, have called for more transparency on the Epstein case, along with influential right-wing conspiracy promoters, including media figures such as Tucker Carlson, Laura Loomer. Attorney General Pam Bondi on February 21st said that the Epstein list is sitting on her desk in an appearance on Fox News in response to a question from John Roberts. Quote, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen? Roberts asked Bondi. Quote, it's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that, the Attorney General replies. That's what Pam Bondi said. She did say she was reviewing it, but he literally asked, the DOJ may be releasing a list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing to do that. Bondi later says that she was referring to the Epstein files, not a client list, but her remark has echoed through discussions of the Epstein story so far this year. The White House gives binders to far-right influencers on February 27th bearing a Department of Justice seal and labels reading Epstein Files Phase 1 and declassified. But much of the information turned out to have been released before, and Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, chairwoman of Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets, called it old info. On July 7th, which is where Pam Bondi believes this timeline begins, or wants us to believe it begins, the Justice Department released a memo saying it has found no incriminating client list of Epstein, contradicting Bondi's February statement. The agency says it turned up more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. It also states that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims, quote-unquote, but the DOJ says those victims' sensitive information is intertwined in the materials, and it concludes no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. Wow. 300 gigabytes is bigger than the SSD that my operating system on this computer is on. Like, that is absurd. 300 gigabytes of documents doesn't sound real, by the way. There would have to be video and photo and a lot of it to be 300 gigabytes. I don't think you realize, but PDFs of documents, like, it would have to be, I don't know if you could count how many documents it would have to be. If you could type how many documents it would take to make 300 gigabytes of data. It would have to be video and photo for a lot of it to be able to inflate the amount of data to that large. If there's no video, that is crazy. There's got to be video, like hours of video.
Stating, quote, there's no incriminating client list. Why was the July 7th memo unsigned?
The July 7th memo came from the FBI and the Department of Justice. Director Patel answered those questions very clear. And, you know, Senator Durbin, I find it very interesting that you refused repeated Republican requests to release the Epstein flight logs in 2023 and 2024. You fought that. Did you take money from Reid Hoffman, campaign donations, who was a huge Epstein friend? Why did you fight for years?
Why did Trump not release the Epstein files after he was killed? Remember, Trump was president when Epstein died in prison. If any government federal bullshit was behind Epstein's murder, don't forget who was president when Epstein was killed.
Why did you fight to not disclose the flight logs, Senator Durbin?
I can tell you I did not refuse. One of the senators here wished to produce those logs, and I asked her to put it in writing, and she never did.
Yeah, I think Senator Blackburn would quarrel with you on that. But
Well,
that's
I will
up to the
quarrel
two
with
of
you as to Reed, somebody that you mentioned I never heard of.
Reed Hoffman.
So who gave the order to flag records related to President Trump?
To flag records for President Trump?
To flag any records which included his name.
Yep. The
I'm not
DOJ
going to
did that.
discuss anything about that.
The DOJ got outed flagging any instances in which Donald Trump was mentioned in the Epstein Files to specifically cover it up and redact it, while not redacting any cases where someone like Bill Clinton gets mentioned in the files. This got outed by DOJ members a few months back, and as you can see, she's like, we're not going to talk about that. I don't want anyone to know about that story. We're burying that one. We don't even have a response for that one, so we're burying it.
With you, Senator.
Eventually, you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this. You won't do it today, but eventually you will. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Based.
Mr.
Fucking based.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, since Senator Durbin referred to me, I would really appreciate the opportunity to correct the record.
This is
Because
Blackburn.
Senator Durbin knows I repeatedly asked for those flight logs. I brought up the subpoena. You even shut down the committee because you didn't want that, and you know I submitted that in writing, and you...
This rings the same as when conservatives say that it's the left that's pro-Confederacy. Meanwhile, it's always conservatives rocking the Confederate flag, like every time. Like, you never meet a Democrat voter who's got a Confederate flag flying outside their house, like, ever. Never, ever has that happened. And so, when you see these people now claiming, we've always been in favor of releasing the Epstein Files, and yet right now, it is Democrats and a very small constituent of Republicans working through a vote to get them out, and it is currently the Republicans who are refusing to verify an elected official who is a Democrat's seat so that she can fulfill her vow to vote yes on releasing the Epstein Files, which is literally the last vote needed to release them. The last vote needed for the inquiry into the Epstein Files to be released is that one last vote. And the Republicans are blocking that seat, which will give them that last vote they need for as long as they can. So, literally, the same shit as when Republicans, while flying a Confederate flag, say the Democrats are the ones who were in favor of slavery.
You continue to misrepresent that, and I am not going to let that record stand.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Senator Durbin.
I just want to make it clear that the reason the committee business ended was that your side invoked the 2-hour rule. Point number 2 is I asked you if you wanted any documents like flight logs to put it in writing. You never did.
Yes, sir, I did, and your staff knows that I did.
No,
We'll submit it.
When did... Okay, let's fact check that. Did Blackburn ever put request for Epstein flight logs in writing? Let's fact check it. Let's find out. Yes, Senator Marsha Blackburn has made multiple written requests for the release of Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs, including formal letters and motions to subpoena. Well, okay. Key instances, February 24th, 2025. Senator Blackburn sent a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi requesting the release of the flight logs, Ghislaine Maxwell's Little Black Book, and surveillance footage related to Epstein. Okay, well, that's not the same as the kind of writing that he's talking about. January 10th, 2024, she co-signed a letter with other Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans supporting a subpoena for Epstein's flight logs and FBI records. Okay, good. January 3rd, 2024. Okay, wait, we're going back in time now to... Okay, wait. So the only time during Trump's presidency that she has put that into writing, which is what they're referring to, is when she sent a letter back in February to FBI Director Kash Patel. Granted, I'm reading the AI overview. Is there a fact check of her current claims? Control F, Blackburn. Senator Marsha Blackburn, a Tennessee Republican, was brought up over a past push from the GOP senator to release the Epstein Files. Bondi and Blackburn accused Durbin of squashing the effort, which Durbin rejected. I find it very interesting that you refused repeated Republican requests to release the Epstein flight logs in 2023 and 2024. You fought that, Bondi told Durbin during the hearing. Durbin rejected the allegation. Durbin, who is the ranking member, responded that he had not refused to release the flight logs, but had asked Blackburn to put her request in writing before asking Bondi, who had given the order to flag any mentions of President Donald Trump in the Epstein Files. The Attorney General said she would not discuss that with the senator, who responded, "Eventually you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this. You won't do it today, but eventually you will." Here, when do we... Do we really not touch on... So apparently she wrote a letter to Kash Patel, but I don't know if that would count as making a formal written request from her position for the release of the files. I don't know. Maybe he did block the release of the files. I have a feeling that both Democrats and Republicans probably want the files released only if it benefits them, because there's no way that prominent Democrats aren't also implicated in associating with Epstein, right? Like, there's plenty of rich, powerful people that are in the Democratic Party, too. Probably far less, but there's got to be a few, and I wouldn't be surprised if the DNC wanted to cover its ass. And right now, a lot of the Democrats are like, yeah, release the files, but let's be real. During Biden's presidency, the Democrats were not really fighting to release the Epstein Files. They were saying it was a distraction from real issues, and you could argue it was at the time, but now the Democrats have flipped and are fully the ones calling for the Epstein Files to come out. And so it's definitely, there is a case of both parties calling for the files to release only when they're not the ones in power. So there's a level of hypocrisy that I think any of us can notice there. Larry Banks 78, I didn't notice that you donated. Thank you for the $5 dues. How kind of you. Thank you so much. Said either Trump is mentioned constantly in the Epstein Files, where they can't downplay them, or so many official politicians are on it, or in on it, that it would ruin nations for them not to have an edited list. It's very possible that it's a global thing, and that there are other countries applying pressure not to release the file. That's a very big possibility, Larry Banks. Thank you for the $5, though. I appreciate it. Big thank you. But yeah, this story is definitely interesting. The big thing, though, is Pam Bondi being the sole wall right now, or one of the few walls right now, between us, the public, and the Epstein Files. I won't lie, there's a good chance the Democrats have actively covered them up in the past. I won't deny that. It's very possible. However, even likely. However, Pam Bondi, the ball is now in the Republicans' court. Like, say we want about the Democrats, but right here and now, if you want the Epstein Files right here and now, the blame is on the Republicans. The ball is in their court. They're the ones blocking the release of the Epstein Files. They're the ones lying to you and saying that things they once claimed existed no longer do, now that it is no longer effective or beneficial for them to release the files. That should tell you something. It really should. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, folks. If you guys enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, enjoyable, or educational in any way whatsoever, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below on this video. It really does help a lot. And if you want to support the stream, leave a like on it too if you're watching live right now. I really do appreciate your support. It means a lot. Remember, the algorithm heavily favors right-wing propaganda, so you guys supporting the stream and giving me that little boost, even in the form of hypes on my videos, really does a lot to help. It means a ton. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon if you haven't already, so YouTube tells you when I go live or upload new videos, and follow my social medias, linked down below in the description, especially my fan Discord. Of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merchandise through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you all so much for watching, as always, and have a good one.